in a few minutes.
This is not some mundane diet choice. This is the difference between enslavement and freedom, between torture and peace, between death and life.
I'm going to be speaking to vegan campaigner James Aspey, who didn't speak for an entire year to give a voice to animals. My next guest has waited a long time to say this.
The reason I took the vow of silence was to raise awareness for the voiceless victims of this planet.
The animals.
The animals.
Yeah, that was vegan campaigner James Aspey uttering his first words after taking a 365-day vow of silence. He is, as you've evidently heard, a very passionate vegan, and now back in full voice, he's come to Scotland from Australia to spread the word. So welcome, James, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Kaye. I really appreciate being on here.
First visit to Scotland?
Yes, it is actually.
Good, and are you enjoying it?
They're looking after me well.
Oh, that's good.
That's great.
So you've been going around sort of schools and different places, talking to groups about your passion, yeah?
I have. I've been going to universities, schools, talking at different events, just trying to raise awareness for animals, to promote peace over violence, to promote respect. You know, everyone already says they love animals and are against animal cruelty, so I'm just asking people to live in alignment with that belief, and that would mean not participating in animal cruelty by not consuming animal products or supporting any animal exploitation.
Well, I mean, it's an argument that we're hearing more and more these days, and I'm sure you won't, well, I hope you won't mind me saying that perhaps if we go back a period of time, veganism was seen as somewhat out there, and it certainly seems to be coming much more into mainstream discussion. But we'll talk about your journey to that, because, you know, this has been a journey for you too, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
But this vow of silence, I'm fascinated by this. Tell me about that.
Well, it was a very challenging way to spread the message, especially, you know, having something that you want to say and not being able to express it verbally, which is obviously the easiest way. But I did it because animals are seen as voiceless. So I went voiceless because they are. But actually what I learned is that they're not actually voiceless. We just don't listen to their cries. We don't listen to their screams because they're a different species than us. And I thought it'd be a good way to raise awareness for them by doing something out there, something different that hadn't really been done before, to draw attention to myself, to my campaign, and therefore to draw attention to the voiceless victims of this planet. And
so was that mainly in your native country of Australia?
Yeah, I went voiceless in Australia. I travelled around the country for the year. I also cycled from Darwin to Sydney, which is basically across Australia, 5,000 kilometres, to also show and break that stereotype that not only is veganism not extreme, in fact it's just so peaceful and respectful, but actually you can also be a healthy, strong, fit vegan. And I know there's this stereotype about vegans, but actually some of the most elite athletes on the planet don't consume any animal products, and I just wanted to do my own thing by doing that cycling mission as well.
So what kind of press did you get during this year? I mean, was there lots in Australia? Who's this guy who said nothing for a year?
Well, during the year it was kind of quiet actually, but it was when I first spoke for the first time, you know, and I'd spent a lot of time figuring out exactly what my first words were going to be. I'd spent actually 10 days in a meditation, and I'd been meditating 10 hours a day before I came up with exactly what I wanted to say on my first words.
And that was a clip that we heard, wasn't it?
That was the start of what I said, yes.
Yeah.
And then I continued on with a heartfelt plea for people to start respecting animals and, you know, good people. We're all good people, but we're contributing to something so horrific and so much torture and suffering and violence every single time we purchase an animal product. And it's so easy for us to just purchase almond milk instead of cow's milk, or put lentils in our shepherd's pie instead of mince. And there's just so many easy things we can do to reduce so much suffering and violence and killing. And so that's why, that's basically why I wanted to do it.
Well, I mean, I imagine you might get quite a bit of response today, James, because, of course, in Scotland, we have a beef industry that many people are very proud of. We have a dairy industry that many people are proud of. And equally, we have a lot of people who are also signed up to the vegan cause. So please do feel free to get your thoughts in on 80295. And I can feel your passion, and we're absolutely going to talk about where it comes from. But I do have to just keep asking you about this vow sounds a little bit longer, in that I cannot conceive of saying nothing for a year.
Long time. And funnily enough, it actually got harder the longer I went. I was expecting to get used to it, expecting it to get easier, but actually by the end of it, I just could not wait to start talking again. It was so hard to not be able to express yourself and to, just talk to your friends or just say hi to someone you walk past in the street. It took a lot of energy, a lot of effort, and yeah, it took its toll numerous times, but in the end, it was just so worthwhile.
Because it's not just the important things that you want to say, is it? It's the, hi, how
Just
are
everything.
you? I'm fine. Cup of tea?
Yeah, just calling your friends, calling your family, meeting new people, and it's such an effort for other people as well, everyone you meet, to try to understand what you're trying to communicating through playing this year-long game of charades.
Is that what you did?
Pretty much, yeah. I'm an expert at that game now.
So did you have little cards that you gave out that kind of explained what you were doing?
Yeah, I did. I had that as well, and I write things down if people couldn't understand my body language. So
Right.
I got pretty good at body language after a while, though.
I mean, did it affect your personal relationships?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, people couldn't really get to know me in the way that they usually would. And, if I had something I wanted to say during a group conversation, it would just take too long for me to write it down. Or I didn't want to bother people too much trying to everyone look at me and focus in and try to figure out what I was saying. So, yeah, it was a very different experience and one I probably will never do again.
I mean, I would imagine that could even potentially have an effect on your mental health, because you can become a little bit isolated. I mean, I know it's a ridiculous situation, but I mean, I sometimes lose my voice so that I am completely mute. And let's say it goes on for 3 or 4 days, I can feel myself, my mood getting very low because I'm just not part of the action.
Absolutely, and I noticed that numerous times where I was feeling, reclusive and like I didn't want to be around people or things like that. But it actually was a really good thing for my mental health in the end, and I didn't realize what was happening during the vow of silence. But as soon as I started talking again, I noticed that because I'd been using my mind to have all these thoughts and to think things through rather than being able to verbalize or express things with friends, it actually sharpened my mind and I could use my mind much more effectively combined with when I had my words back. So I didn't notice at the time, but later I realized it was actually a huge benefit for my mind.
And in terms of promoting your cause, was it effective?
The interview of me speaking for the first time was shared around the world and viewed by millions and millions of people. And it's also, ironically, given me a voice. Since then, I've travelled around the world giving speeches about how we can respect animals, what we owe to our fellow earthlings on this planet. And I've reached many, many people.
So that year-long vow of silence has gave you an audience, that has carried over to now. Well, clearly, I mean, you were invited to Scotland, and I think actually people crowdfunded to get you here, didn't they?
Yeah, that's right. And this year I'll be travelling all over the world. So I've got a story that I think people can relate to because I'm just a normal guy. In fact, I didn't even used to care about animals, for a long time.
Yeah, well, let's hear this story because it is a fascinating story.
Yeah, well,
let's go back to when you were a normal guy.
Well, I didn't understand who animals are, what they are. I didn't understand that humans were animals too, and everything that we share are the things that matter, our hearts and our brains and our will to live and our families and our friends and the way we communicate. Like, that's what matters, that we all want to live. And I always thought that animals didn't even care about their own life. They weren't intelligent enough, I thought. So why would I care about them? And then one day while I was working as a personal trainer on a cruise ship, I met a very wise Indian man who told me that he believed eating animals was bad karma. And I didn't really know if I believed in karma, but it was enough to make me wonder if I could get some benefit from not consuming animal products. And I'd been a health professional for 8 years and I was very passionate. So I thought I'll look into it. And what I learned shocked me because I always believed we needed to eat animal products to survive and be healthy. And what I found out was that actually we can be so much healthier without consuming animal products. We can reduce our chances of the most prevalent diseases in our world, like heart disease and cancers, diabetes, obesity, osteoporosis. These are the most prevalent things killing us. They can be reversed sometimes or prevented with a vegan diet. And for me, I was so passionate about helping others and my own health, I decided, well, I'm going to cut animal products from my diet. I really just cut meat out first, and went vegetarian for a while because I didn't really care about animals, so I didn't see the point in cutting out anything else. But when I learned that there's at least as much cruelty in dairy, in eggs, in leather, in all animal products really, I decided, well, am I against animal cruelty to some animals or all animals.
Now, what is the cruelty part? Because I'm just anticipating some of the reactions that we might get there of people, as I say, that are dairy farmers, that are beef farmers, who will be outraged that you're suggesting that they are going to treat their livestock in a cruel manner.
Okay, it's a good point. Well, in the dairy industry, for cows to be giving milk, they need to be impregnated. So they're forcibly impregnated. And then after a 9-month pregnancy, their babies are taken from her. The babies, if they're boys, they're sent to a slaughterhouse and killed. So they'll have a bolt gun put to their head, shoots a bolt through their skull into their brain to stun them, and then they usually get their throat slit. And that's because the baby boys will never produce milk, so they're seen as a waste product. The mothers will be hooked up to painful milking machines after her babies have been taken, and they will be exploited for their milk for 5 to 7 years until they can't go on any longer after repeated impregnations, babies being taken, which is very traumatic for such a maternal animal. And then they'll be sent to the same slaughterhouse as their babies. And these kinds of cruelties are rife through all animal exploitation. But even if someone did, call in right now and say that they treat the animals very nicely, they give them belly rubs every day and all these kinds of things, they all end up at the same slaughterhouse. They all end up getting killed, even if it's organic, even if it's free range. And there's no good way to kill someone who wants to die. We call it humane, but humane means to show compassion. There is never a compassionate way to kill someone who doesn't want to die.
Is it the centre of this is the power dynamic that you kind of argue with, in that the human animal has power over four-legged animals or whatever, and that is centrally what you object to, that our right to life should not be greater than their right to life?
Well, the thing is, it's not about our right to life, because we can live and thrive without consuming animal products. So if it was about human survival, if we had to kill animals to survive and be healthy, that's a great argument. I wouldn't be here advocating for veganism if we had to consume animal products for our survival. But the fact is that not only do we not need to eat animal products to survive and thrive, we are actually far healthier without doing so. Also, the planet thrives because animal agriculture is a leading cause of some of the biggest disasters facing this planet today. So it's actually imperative for our sustainability and survival that we do become vegan, that we do switch to a plant-based diet. But yes, obviously we do have power over the animals. That's why we dominate them in such a way. That's why they're caged. That's why they're at our mercy. But that power we also can use to be compassionate, to respect, to show them the consideration that we would want to be shown, to do unto others as we would want done to ourselves. And I think that's where we should be focusing, because we don't kill and eat animals to survive and thrive. We kill and eat animals because it's tradition, they taste good, and that's what we've always done. And they're not good enough justifications to continue this exploitation and this cruelty and this violence.
Well, James, stay with us. And I mean, I will say to people that clearly you can hear that James has a very particular worldview and a very strong argument that he wants to get out there. You may or may not agree with it, but I'm sure you'll agree that it's interesting to listen to. So I'll speak to James a bit more after this. You've spoken about the will to live. As humans, we have a will to live. Animals have a will to live. We're all animals. You really had to force your will to live, didn't you, as a teenager?
Yeah, I was diagnosed with cancer when I was 17 years old. It was a very serious cancer at a very serious stage, and they gave me about 6 weeks to live if I didn't start treatment straight away. So for the next 3 years, I was on a strong dose of chemotherapy. I lost all my hair. I put on a huge amount of weight. I became very unhealthy, obviously, because I was taking in all these chemicals and not being able to be active or do anything good for my body. So that was actually my first experience of suffering, and I think that was actually a critical point for me to understand how bad suffering is, and then to be motivated to help others out of theirs.
Right. And then when you began to become well again, health became a passion, didn't it?
Yeah, well, just the value of being healthy is just so amazing. And, I went from being a very healthy person to being a very unhealthy person and feeling terrible. So when I was able to get my health back, which was through the help of a personal trainer, a very inspiring man, I just wanted to share that with others. I just felt so much better again. And I just really wanted to share that gift with others and to help other people out of their suffering wherever I could. And that's why I was such a passionate personal trainer for such a long time.
Yeah. And clearly you now believe, though you weren't initially of that school of thought. I think you said that you met an Indian guy on a cruise ship.
Yep.
There you go. That's the name of your first book. I met an Indian guy on a cruise ship. And it was he that introduced you to the health benefits, as you now see them, to vegetarianism and veganism.
Yeah, he got that ball rolling, and then through my own research I just realised what a wealth of information there was and such a strong argument in favour of animal rights and veganism.
I'm just looking at the text because I'm curious, to be honest, just to see how people are responding to you. Well, Laura says, rubbish. As a farmer, there's no cruelty here. You do your thing, I'll do mine. I respect your choices, but if you want to eat meat and eggs, buy locally bred, free range, well treated, and that's the best you can do. They're not in cages. They're roaming free in the hills. Mary from Glasgow says, I was brought up on a typical Scottish diet of mince and tatties. I don't know if you know what mince and tatties is.
I think I do.
Yep. I've been vegan for 3 years after being veggie for about 10. I can't bear our total disrespect of and cruel, inhumane treatment of animals to eat, use and wear, which is usually a direct result of profit margins. Eating meat is unhealthy, and by cutting it we could dramatically reduce climate change issue too. So Mary is a convert. And a text in just saying, huge respect to this guy. We need more information on veganism to be out there. I think one of the issues perhaps has been that veganism, and to a lesser extent now vegetarianism, has been kind of set up in opposition, if you like, to meat eaters, and it's a very adversarial debate, isn't it? You know, if you're right, then I'm wrong, and if
Yeah.
I'm wrong, you're right, and that does tend to entrench people in positions. And, you know, from your point of view, in terms of trying to spread the word, you will probably understand that people don't like being told that they're being cruel and nasty.
Of course not. That's why my goal isn't to make anyone feel like they're a bad person, because I actually don't believe that we are. I wasn't a bad person before I knew. I just hope that when people know better, they can do better. So that's why I've made it my goal to just educate people, encourage people, and hopefully inspire people. I don't want anyone to feel bad because of what I'm telling them. I want them to feel good and feel empowered and feel like they can go and make better choices that are going to be a benefit for themselves and for others. That's my goal.
I mean, you've got such a drive, haven't you? Now, I mean, do you think that does? I'm not going to try and psychoanalyse you, but do you think it does come from your experience as a younger man, sort of really facing a potential death sentence, I suppose?
Partly, only partly though, because I think where my drive comes from is I just feel a big responsibility to help. You know, I see something happening. I believe it's one of the worst injustices happening on this planet today. And they cannot get themselves out of this mess. It's only people with a voice. It's only vegans who believe all animal exploitation is immoral that can spread a message of the end of animal exploitation. I think that's the least they deserve. So I feel that passion and that drive just because I know that they can't do it themselves. And I know if I was in their position, I would most definitely want someone speaking up for me the way I'm trying to speak up for them.
So what's your vision as to how, you know, the world keeps itself and feeds itself? Because a lot of people would say, I suppose, that you have a lot less animals in the world because we wouldn't need to breed them.
Yeah, we would have a lot less animals. Right now we kill approximately 1.5 trillion animals every single year for foods and products that we are better off without. So the world obviously won't go vegan next week, no matter how good a campaigner I am. But this will be a gradual change. And as the demand for animal products decreases, so too does the amount of animals being bred into existence. We feed animals 6 to 12 times more food than what we can take from their bodies and their secretions. That means we're freeing up a huge amount of food, a huge amount of land, a huge amount of water. So we would actually be in surplus. We'd have an abundance of all these vital things.
Well, I mean, I have said it's a divisive issue, and Sheena from Orkney, sadly for us, says it's the first time she's ever switched off the programme, and James
Wow.
should stop speaking for another year. She's a sheep farmer, and she's not happy at all, and we know that view is out there. On the contrary, somebody else saying, wonderful, compassionate human being, proud to be a fellow vegan. Well done, James. It doesn't stop at that. I mean, am I right in thinking, or have I dreamt this, that you are considering to donate a kidney on an altruistic basis?
Yeah, I am. I learned recently, well, about a couple of years ago now, that we don't need two kidneys to survive. I actually wasn't aware of that before. And my friend had lived her whole life having only one kidney, and I didn't realise that. So when I learned that we only need one kidney, I thought, well, if that's the case, then we can be perfectly healthy with only one. And there are people out there who desperately need one. Maybe I'll give one away. And so that's my plan, to just donate a kidney to someone in need, in the hopes that not only obviously to help that individual, but also to inspire others to help others as well, and show that not only will this person receiving the kidney get benefit, but also I will get a lot of benefit from doing a good deed. It feels really good to help others. So I want people to be motivated to do that as well.
Right, so you're using this platform that you now have to spread your message, I guess. So is it when you're back to Australia?
Tomorrow. Well, I leave for tomorrow. It's a pretty long flight back.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And what kind of reception have you had here?
Oh, it's been amazing. Every speech has been fully booked, and I think a lot of people have left feeling very inspired. I've received a word from a lot of new vegans, and it's just been extremely positive. So I'm very grateful for the experience.
Okay. Well, we're very grateful that you came in to speak to us today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, James. That's James Aspey there. And as I say, a very strong and passionate plea for veganism.